Farnsworth here. This week, the Odyssey ends for the Minnesota Vikings, our road warriors, end their trip in Chicago, the Windy City, against Matt Eberflus, Caleb Williams, and the dastardly Chicago Bears. Will they come out of this road trip undefeated, or will they be mauled? We'll find out.
Robert is the star of this show, Ted.
Oh, he's an idiot, but whatever.
Robert Farnsworth is the highlight of this show, man. I love it every week. He is a dastardly dude.
Dastardly Chicago Bears and dastardly Soldier Field.
Oh, God, Soldier Field. You have to build up your psyche going there. I mean, how many games at Soldier Field have we watched? 110?
57, so I probably have watched, well, I missed a lot of time when I was in the service. I've probably seen 30-ish, 40-ish games in Soldier Field, and they've all been weird and dumb and stupid.
They all are weird and dumb, from chasing Bobby Douglas around to
Walter Payton breaking the single-game NFL rushing record.
I was watching that game when he got to 275. The Vikings only lost that game 10-7.
I know.
And as he's tearing off these huge chunk yards, I'm saying, how can they not stop him when, remember, the Bears had no passing attack. They were just feeding it to Walter Payton, and I'm thinking, that was weird in itself. That's when it all started for me, that Soldier Field is a cursed field.
Mike Tomczak, former Ohio State guy, I loved him as an Ohio State Buckeye. He sucked as a Bears quarterback. Viking had Minnesota's number. Like, they even lost to Chicago in Soldier Field in the 70s on Monday Night Football with Fran Tarkenton and the people leaders. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Anyways, doesn't matter.
That was another game in itself, but people don't want to hear about our old escapades.
No, they don't. But, I mean, they had how many years streak in Soldier Field did they have where they couldn't beat them?
Oh,
terrible.
It was. And it was like blocked punts and fumbles.
Oh, and safeties and Jay Cutler smoking a doobie on the sidelines, then flinging 352 yards and 5 touchdowns. And God, anyways.
It's gotten a little better recently.
It has. Yeah, it has.
Did you know that if KOC wins Sunday in Soldier Field, he will be only the second Vikings coach to start his tenure with 3 straight wins at Soldier Field without losing?
Really?
Yes. And who was the guy who did it first, Ed?
Wasn't Bud Grant.
No.
Obviously, it wasn't Les Steckel. It's got to be Denny, right?
Yes, it was. Denny Green.
Yeah.
92, 93, 94.
That's
Dennis
right.
Green went 3-0. The streak ended in 95 because he couldn't handle the great Eric Kramer thrown to Curtis Conway. And they ran up to 31-14. They beat us, but KOC can tie that record. Not Bud Grant, all these Jerry Burns, all these guys started their career. They didn't win 3 straight at Soldier Field. So that should be motivation for KOC.
Nice. All right, so the Vikings head to Soldier Field. Kind of a Twilight Zone for the Vikings playing there. It's just weird things always happen there.
Why is it?
I don't know, man. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine at work who's a big Packers fan and another guy who's a big Lions fan. And we just kind of have, this friendly banter back and forth. And we all agree. Doesn't matter what team you're a fan of, just weird crap happens at Soldier Field.
Always.
Yeah, Kyle was talking about, well, we had to block a field goal to beat him because just weird crap happens. That field sucks. If you look at the stadium, it looks like a UFO crashed sideways into it, but whatever. Anyways, as always, we'll bring up our big board, our ode or our tribute to the greatest pregame show that ever lived. The NFL Today on CBS from back in the 70s and 80s. Brent Musburger, Jimmy the Greek, Irv Cross, and Meow Meow, as you say, Phyllis George.
You don't want to know what my brother said about Phyllis George the other day.
How's your brother doing, by the way?
He's doing better. He's doing better, and he's still trying to get to emails and answer everybody, but he wanted to say thank you to you and us giving him a shout-out last Sunday. He's a pretty reserved and shy guy now that he's an old man, but
aren't we?
He is very grateful for Vikings Report. Being he's in traction, all he can do is watch our show.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah. That's going to aid his recovery or cause him to go and have to see professional mental health when he gets out of traction. But be that as it may.
Scott Bunting, shout out to you.
Get well soon, Scott. I'm glad you're watching the show. Anyways, our big board categories are a little bit different, but the premise is the same. We start with quarterback and we'll end with intangibles. Because what are intangibles, Drew?
I think, if I'm not right, come on, baby, light my fire. I think intangibles are things you can't see, right?
Things you can't see. Much like Gandalf's magic.
Shout out to Don Glover. Don Glover used to get mad at you and you'd complain about the game in the first quarter, didn't he?
Well, I was a little kid, man.
Did he tell you to shut up or just was
He didn't get mad. I mean, he got frustrated because a little kid. He just like because he's like, calm down. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And it always was. So, quarterback, you want to start this off or you want me to?
I'll start it off. Caleb Williams, tough season altogether, Ted. We know the numbers. We know he's been sacked 41 times. He only has 9 TDs and 5 picks. Everybody's saying he's a bust. I don't think so. I think he's still going to be a very good quarterback, whether it's there or somewhere else. But I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in this league. And I think he and J.J. McCarthy are going to have a rivalry to set all rivalries when they start playing head to head against each other in this NFC Norris division. Williams is still a playmaker. He can still beat you with his legs. Got 70 yards rushing last week against the Packers. He averages 30 or 40 a week. He's just having a tough time processing, pocket presence. He is struggling like a rookie will struggle. And I had to take Sam Darnold, but I think in the future, you'd be looking for Caleb Williams. He's not a washout, Ted. He's not. He's a good quarterback. He's a rookie quarterback who's struggling, like a lot of rookie quarterbacks do. But until he gets some more time, gets some experience of what he's looking at in the NFL, he is going to struggle. But he can get hot and get in rhythm. He can have a good game. But I got to give it to Darnold with his experience. Darnold is like the one dude, the Viggo Mortensen character.
Aragorn.
He's kind of Aragorn. He makes a couple mistakes here and there, but I kind of think Darnold's gonna. He came out of it a little bit last week, Ted. He's going into the spook house, which is bounce off the helmet, interception, all that shit. We know what happens in Soldier Field, but I think he'll be fine this week. I think he'll be fine this week, building his confidence back, and I think the running game's going to help him out this week. Actually, help him. I'm taking Darnold for my quarterback check, but Caleb Williams, I'm not going to put that guy spin him down the drain yet. I think he's still going to be a very good quarterback.
I am. Caleb Williams sucks. Sorry, he just does. I said no matter who went to the Bears, whatever quarterback the Bears picked was going to suck because it's the Bears. And Caleb Williams had the added pressure of being compared to Patrick Mahomes before the season even started. I remember some clip I saw that was put on Twitter that said, is Caleb Williams already as good as Patrick Mahomes? And I just rolled my eyes and threw my computer out the window. This kid had no chance. He had absolutely no chance because he's got an idiot for a head coach who fired his idiot offensive coordinator, and the idiot head coach is going to get fired at the end of the season. And now you're going to have a new head coach who's going to bring in a new offensive coordinator who's going to bring in a new offense. It's Justin Fields redux for the Bears. It is. Sam Darnold. Running game. DeAndre Swift did not practice today. He was hurt last week. We talked about the Vikings run game on our post-game show. Their running game has become very ineffective the last month. I still don't know why Ty Chandler isn't playing over Cam Akers. I'm not impressed with Cam Akers as a runner. Aaron Jones, when he does run, he's okay for like a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half. And then he just looks to get tired. I don't know what the deal is. I'm going to take the Vikings running game because I think their offensive line is a little bit better than Chicago's. And the Bears give up more rushing yards on defense than the Vikings do. But the Vikings need to get their running game going this week. They just absolutely have to, and they need to get it figured out the rest of the year because they have to have a more balanced attack. And they had it. I thought, early on, I thought they had it against Tennessee. But if the Vikings don't get their running game figured out, what we've talked about earlier in the show is not going to matter. Their running game has become an issue, and it needs to become a non-issue, and it needs to start this week against a team that does not defend the run very well. Vikings.
I think Swift's a good running back. I think the Bears have a fairly decent running attack. The reason I'm giving it to the Vikings is because of two reasons. The Bears' offensive line is beat up. It's not very good running the football. And then what factors in when we're talking about these running games every week is who you're running against. I think the Viking front seven is much more stout than the Bears is. When you research the Bears, it's obvious how they want to play football, how they want to win games. They want to keep it under 20. They want to run the ball. They want to keep the other team off the field. They don't score a lot of points. They're the hockey team that wants to win at 1-0. That's what they are. They don't have big explosive plays. So the running game is big for them. Part of how they beat Green Bay last week. Played turnover-free football and ran the ball for 179 yards. That's how the Bears are going to win games. If they can't run the football.
They lost to Green Bay.
Or lost to Green Bay. I'm sorry.
They could have.
Yeah, they lost to them. It came down to that last field goal. But that's what they want to do. They want to get the ground game going, but they're coming up against the Vikings. I mean, if they get their run game shut down, Ted, what the hell are they going to do? They're going to be in big trouble. But we say it every week. Colts, Jags, Titans, we got to stop the run, then we'll get their quarterback in a bad position. And it's kind of the same thing for the fourth straight week. When you look at the Vikings front seven and their run defense, number one in the NFL, and then the offensive line of the Vikings, I think to a man is better than the Bears, and they got a couple injuries up there. I think the Vikings run game gets the check mark, and it's pretty simple for me.
What about the receiving game, Drew?
When you look at the wide receiver group for both these teams, one thing that stood out to me, there's some damn good receivers. If you clump them all up in this game, what is it? Adunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then Kmet. We got JJ, Addy, Naylor, and Hawkinson. Those are all really good receivers on both sides. But again, factor in who the quarterback is, the pressure the quarterback that they face. Caleb Williams, that guy's been tagged more than Linda Lovelace back there. He can't get out of the pocket to save his life. The Bears almost last in passing yards, Ted. I think they're 30th in passing yards, moving the football in the air. That's why they want to keep it close and keep it a low-scoring game, because they get behind by 14, the game's over. Leaky offensive line hurts their passing game. I'm going with the Vikings receivers in this game.
Yeah, I am too. Not only that, but when Shane Waldron, the former offensive coordinator of the Bears, got fired, rumor is the Bears players wanted Caleb Williams benched before they wanted Shane Waldron fired. I don't think the issue is with the Bears receivers who are good. It's the guy who's throwing or not throwing the ball. But all that said, Vikings receivers are better.
I think they are. There's a lot to cover with the Viking receivers for every defense.
On the offensive line, Dalton Reisner replaced Ed Ingram last week. I didn't think it was much of an upgrade. It was probably a lateral move at best. That said, and I still think the Vikings' interior offensive line is nothing special. It's nothing to write home about. Cam Robinson has been an adequate replacement for Christian Darrisaw. Brian O'Neill is probably the best right tackle in football. Statistically, he's playing like it. When you compare that to the Chicago Bears offensive line, they're just a beat-up bunch. They weren't great to begin with. They had issues. The Bears and the Vikings offensive line perpetually just have question marks going into the season. And it just seems like no matter what the teams do to try and address the issues, although the Vikings have the tackle positions kind of finally hammered down, the Bears always have problems, and they have problems again this year. I saw one of their offensive linemen did not practice today. The name escapes me off the top of my head.
Ryan Bates.
Thank you. Ryan Bates, didn't practice. If he's a no-go, that's going to be even bigger problems for them. I'm going to go with the Vikings offensive line here.
I am too, Ted. And when you look at it, they should dominate the trenches. They should dominate the Bears offensive line. Only the Cleveland Browns in this league, Ted, have given up more sacks than the Bears. The Browns have given up 48. The Bears have given up 41. That's 32nd and 31st in the league, respectively. And that was with a healthy offensive line. Tevin Jenkins, he's probably their best player. He didn't play last week. I heard today on the report, and as we say we record on Wednesday, I heard he's supposed to return, that'll be a big markup for the Bears if they can get him back. But Bates is hurt. And then the great Kayron Amagaji, Ted. He's also hurt. There's no excuse for the Vikings not to knock them on their ass in the trenches, Ted. Bears control this game at all in the trenches. That would be shocking to me. Vikings, huge advantage. Take advantage of it. That's part of why Caleb Williams is suffering this year, Ted.
Yeah.
He gets sacked every other play. Vikings, check mark, O-line.
And that leads us right into the front seven. So why don't you just continue and talk about the front seven of the two teams, Drew?
I forgot to mention this during the running game segment, Ted. But as you know, the Bears don't have what we've been used to having to deal with on the offensive line up there and the running game. Interior defensive linemen, we've faced Dex Lawrence, Quinn Williams, DeForest Buckner, Jeffrey Simmons, and his buddy, the big sweat hog, Aleem McNeil, and Kenny Clark.
That's a murderer's row, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've gotten through. They're 8-2, getting through that.
Yeah.
This is the first time you look at those Bears guys. Neither of those guys scare me. And that's why I think the Vikings will make some hay running off tackle. They're finally playing an interior defensive lineman that doesn't have a Superman across the line. Who are the guys on there? Who's their defensive tackles? Tell me their names.
I got Zach Pickens and Gervon Dexter. They have at the top of the depth chart for the Bears.
I know more about Frodo frickin' Baggins than I do about these two guys. So that also helps the O-line.
The biggest name on the Bears front seven is defensive end Montez Sweat.
Great player.
He's a very good player, but he's going up against Brian O'Neill, who has only given up 2 pressures and no sacks all year. There's a very good chance he'll be neutralized. Like you said, DeMarcus Walker's not a bad player, but I think Cam Robinson matches up very well against him. Other than that, every other position advantage Vikings.
Right.
Honestly, really honestly. I mean, the Vikings linebacking core with Grenard, Van Ginkel, especially with Blake Cashman back, I love Ivan Pace Jr. I just love this group. I mean, one of the things Kevin Seifert mentioned in his ESPN article is what a historically good rate the Vikings defensive line is, and that was in terms of being able to defend the run. The Vikings are only giving up 74 yards a game running the ball. That is unbelievable, man. That's like steel curtain football good. You said get some designed run for Caleb Williams. There were a couple hits Will Levis took last week from Jonathan Grenard. There was one I thought he like legitimately killed him. Like, hey fellas, I think I broke his freaking neck from like the longest yard. I mean, the pop was so loud, I just went, oh ho ho!
Wasn't that Lurch? Wasn't that Richard Keel? Wasn't that
It
Richard
was
Keel?
Jaws from the Bond movies. Yeah,
Richard Keel. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if they do that, I think Grenard or Gink or Cashman is going to hit him so hard, he's going to think he's back at USC. I honestly do, man.
Sometimes it's just simple. When you look at these breakdowns we do, we don't
Mhm.
really get too deep into the numbers and the cone times in college and how they run to the right and the weak side. Look at the playmakers in the Vikings front seven. Ted, you know who they are. Give me a number real quick. How many playmakers they got in their front seven?
5. I'm counting
5.
Phillips, Grenard, Pace, Cashman, and Van Ginkel. 5.
Bears have Edmonds and Montez Sweat.
I would throw in DeMarcus Walker.
I wouldn't.
Okay, all right.
My point being, who has more playmakers? Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just simple. It's
Yeah.
simple. They got
Yeah.
too many good players in the front seven compared to the Bears. Vikings get my check mark.
Yeah, me too. For the secondary, Will Levis threw for a ton of yards against the Vikings. I thought they were going to just absolutely murder Will Levis. He stepped up. I mean, the first half, the Vikings had his number, but the second half, I don't know what the deal was.
He was starting to piss me off.
Stephon Gilmore looked bad. Harrison Smith had a couple blown coverages, but he had the game-sealing interception. I don't know what to make of the Vikings secondary. One week they look really great, or one half they look really great. Another half they look terrible. You look at the Bears secondary, they only give up 197 yards passing a week. They are very good. They're a very good ball hawking secondary. I'm actually going to give the check mark to the Bears here. They're a very good secondary. They really are. And if Sam Darnold doesn't take care of the ball, I mean, the Bears are +9 in turnover margin. They're third in the NFL in taking the ball away. The Vikings had better be careful and not get sloppy with the ball, or they're going to find themselves on the short end of the stick. I'm going to give the Bears the check mark on this one.
God, it's like you're reading my notes and reading my mind, brother. That's exactly what I have written down. I got written in these notes. If the Vikings are sluggish and can't get in a rhythm on offense passing the ball, the Bears are halfway to the turnover.
Yep.
Because their secondary the first 5 weeks of the season was number 1.
Yeah.
And it's still number 9. And like you said, under 200 yards a game in modern football is on fire. They lost Brisker. Brisker was a big loss for them, the safety, when he got hurt. He got put on IR. But other than that, they are going to be playing fired up football. You're going to see it Sunday because they know they're the strong point of the team. The Bears secondary is the strongest unit on their team. They're the ones that keep these games 17-14, Ted. They're the ones that keep the game with Packers 20-19 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears want to keep it under 20. We'll play low scoring, 1-0 hockey. But part of the reason they do that is they don't get burned in the secondary. Their secondary keeps them in these close games. The Bears want to play close games. And we know KOC doesn't like to run the score up. So it's going to be nip and tuck all the way, Ted.
They had an interception of Jordan Love in the red zone on the goal line last week, for example. Another one.
The Bears, look at this stat I got written down here for the Bears. The Bears secondary has only allowed 250-plus passing yards in 2 games versus Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love last week. 2 guys have gotten over 250 yards. Everybody else has gotten shut down. Yeah. If the Vikings get that sluggish passing game like they had in the second half of the Jets game or the Jacksonville game, the Bears secondary is going to get stronger during the game, more confident, and they are. You're right, Ted. That secondary can shut you down.
They can.
If the Bears had a run defense, they'd be up there with us at 8-2. They would. They just can't. They can't generate enough points, and their defense, their secondary is good, and the Vikings are going to have to expose that and attack it, Ted. I don't want these little BS screen passes. They got to attack the secondary because the Bears do get my check mark there because they are good there.
Yep. All right, tell me about the red zone, buddy.
Red zone. I am actually giving 2 helmets in a row. I'm giving Chicago the red zone, too. They're the best red zone defense in the league, Ted.
They are.
Another reason they keep the games close. Great secondary, great red zone. The flip side to all that, if the Vikings get to 20, they're going to win the game. But it's tough to get to 20 on the Bears, believe it or not, even though they're 4-6. They've only allowed 13 touchdowns on 32 red zone trips. That's how they keep the score low. That's number one in the league. I don't know what they are offensively, but I don't think they're shoddy in the red zone. I ended up giving them the helmet just on the numbers. The numbers don't lie sometimes. And the Vikings did get better last week in the red zone, but that Jacksonville game was horrendous.
Yeah, it could have been a lot better. Vikings are 14th on offense, 21st on defense in the red zone. Like you said, the Bears are first in the NFL in red zone defense, 9th on offense. The Bears have only given up 20 points or more three times this year. They've scored 20 points or more. 3 of those were against the Rams, the Panthers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, I mean, not very good teams. I don't think they're going to get 20 against the Vikings. Can the Vikings get 20 against the Bears defense?
That's the question.
Now, that said, the Vikings have the capability to score from well outside the red zone. 35, 40, 50-yard bombs, Justin Jefferson, a lot more than the Bears do. Yeah. But I'm giving the red zone to the Bears just like you did. Special teams. John Parker Romo missed an extra point last week.
So he's officially a Viking now, right?
He's officially a Vikings kicker. Omni Vor Dominus. Cairo Santos. I don't know.
Was that a Zeppelin song?
No, I don't know.
They did sing about Mordor, Robert Plant.
I think Santos is probably more used to kicking in cow pit of a field that's Soldier Field. Although his outfit walking into Nashville, whatever they call that field in Nashville now.
What was it? I didn't see.
Oh, it was a big. He looked like one of the Village People. Had a cowboy hat, like a black tank top and a leather jacket. It kind of looked like a combination of Freddie Mercury and one of the Village People singers. It was fairly badass, actually. I mean, anyways, I think I'm going to give it to Cairo Santos and the Bears special teams.
I had as much as you can get a draw on this, but yeah. I'm giving it to the Bears also because you may not think it's important, but the Bears' DeAndre Carter is actually a really good return guy. 31-yard average kick return. Even though you don't think punt return yards count, I do. They don't matter in the Glover scheme of football things. I was going to give it a draw, but I'll give it to the Bears. Could come down to special teams, but Santos isn't really that. I don't know why I'm giving him the check mark. Maybe I should give it to the Vikings.
Well, Santos, here, let's look it up here. Cairo Santos
he's 14-17 or something.
14-17 and 16-17 on extra points.
That's not very good. That's 82%. Ooh. Drew figuring it out. I'll give the Bears the helmet on there, but they're going to get blown out of this game anyway.
Tell me about coaching, Drew.
What do you want to know? The Bears are, when you start getting rid of coordinators in the middle of the season, you're a mess. Also, hey, Ryan Poles, you are a dumbass. You're a dumbass and a dipshit, and you're a failure as a GM, but I don't mean any of that in a bad way. Coaching staff's the Vikings. The Bears are still trying to figure it out. Eberdick, he doesn't know what he's doing. I think their defensive coordinator, they should make him the head coach. That guy's a pretty good coordinator. He used to run the defensive line for Buffalo.
Eric Washington?
Yeah, he's more of a defensive coach, but that's already their strong point right now. But Vikings get a big check mark on the play calling, on the coaching staff altogether. Flores, come on.
Matt Eberflus is Elvish for idiot. You know, I'm kind of relishing. Before the season started, all the Bears fans were chirping. Oh, we got Caleb Williams.
Weren't they?
We got Roma Duns. We got Keenan Allen. We got DJ Moore. We got DeAndre Swift. We're going to the Super Bowl, man. Oh God! And then they got Montez Sweat, and now you're 4-6, and then they were like 4-2 at one point. They won 4 in a row, and God, they were rubbing themselves down in baby oil and buying Super Bowl tickets and plane tickets and hotel rooms to wherever the hell the Super Bowl is being played at. And now they're 4-6, and their offensive coordinator got fired because Matt Eberflus is trying to save his job, and he's still going to get fired. And Ryan Poles is a special ed retard. And I tell you what, man, I'm loving it. I'm McDonald's. Da-da-da-da-da.
Every year, the Bears, the Cowboys, and those freaking idiots at Notre Dame always say it's our year.
God.
Speaking of Notre Dame, they're a really consistent football team. Consistently playing the cupcakes to try to get in the friggin' playoffs every year.
We're going to take the North, and we're never going to give it back.
Ryan
Shut up.
Poles. What a dumbass. I mean,
dope.
Don't just shut up, Poles. Just don't say anything.